Can you naturalize if you have issues with your taxes? I'm Erick Widman, I'm an immigration lawyer, and if you've failed, for example, to file a tax return, or if there were inconsistencies or problems within a tax return, then unfortunately, this could prevent you from naturalizing. This is because the Immigration and Nationality Act requires that you show good moral character for the statutory period in order to naturalize. And failing to file a tax return or some other problem related to your taxes can be viewed as an unlawful act. And USCIS is required to look at any unlawful acts and determine their impact on your good moral character. So thankfully, because tax law is complex, just like immigration law is so complex, thankfully your officer reviewing your case both before the interview and during the interview, is supposed to look at your situation on a case-by-case basis, because there are several factors that are unique to you that affect if you have good moral character or not. And so there's a systematic analysis that your officer will go through to determine if your specific issue, your imperfection with your taxes, qualifies as a bar to showing good moral character or not. So they've got to look at these factors. So the very first factor is to determine whether you have committed an unlawful act during the statutory period. And so, because tax law is complex, some examples are clearly unlawful. For example, a failure to pay taxes that you are supposed to, or a failure to file taxes at all, that can be deemed an unlawful act. But if you marked something one way when you should have marked it another on the form, such as claiming a dependent when you shouldn't have, that gets more complex. And so the other factors are: determine whether this unlawful act adversely affects your good moral character. And interestingly, the second step requires the immigration officer to look at the average standards in your community for good moral character. And so certain communities have higher and lower standards, or specific practices are different. And for taxes in particular, that might mean perhaps lots of babysitters are not reporting their income. If that's a common practice in the community, I don't know, by the way, I don't know if this has ever applied anywhere, but maybe that's going to be allowed to pass because it's a common standard. The average person in the community would not have reported that. Then, after they do that analysis, step 3 is to review for extenuating circumstances. So this is to give the applicant a chance to show that circumstances were different. Maybe you filed late because you were in the hospital. Did someone get COVID? Was there a confusing change in the law that caused you to check A instead of B? Ignorance of the law is no excuse, but they're opening the door to hear what these extenuating circumstances might be and for the applicant to share them. And if you're in the Ninth Circuit, you also, as an applicant, have an additional 4th step built into the analysis that your USCIS officer must look at. And that 4th factor is called counterbalancing factors. And so this is the opportunity for you, the applicant, to show positive factors that help demonstrate your good moral character. So despite this mistake you made on your taxes, despite the imperfection there, you can and should show, otherwise you're an upstanding member of the community. They invite you to talk about your education and family and work background. So if you're a doctor with an amazing family who has no criminal record and you incorrectly mark something on your taxes, in the Ninth Circuit, those are important counterbalancing factors that will help you get your case approved. This area like so much of immigration law, is fairly complex. Tax law is overlaid onto this. And so make sure that when you're considering whether you're going to naturalize and apply to naturalize, that you have a tax professional check out your taxes to make sure everything is fine. Also, make sure you get caught up in all prior back taxes or file tax returns that you should have. And remember that the statutory period for those of you filing on your own, where you must have good moral character, is 5 years, leading up to the point where you apply and all the way through naturalization, actually at the oath ceremony. If you're married to a US citizen, the statutory period is 3 years. Make sure you have your taxes in good order before naturalizing. Hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let us know, and take care.